Welcome to the Two Guys, One Coup podcast with Dale and Jim, where the truth matters and progressives' feelings don't. We bring you the facts from the perspective of two average, everyday guys who will never apologize for being America first, for adhering to our great Constitution, and for saluting the flag that our brothers and sisters have fought and died for. And now, here's Dale and Jim.
Bonus episode this week. And why do we have that? Well, there's a TikTok trend that's gone around, and it was simple and it was short, and the video was short, and we're going to play that. And it asked the question to women: are you safer in the woods with a man or a bear? The answers were very, very surprising. And we brought with us our resident expert, our good friend, John Curley, who, by the way, is half man, half grizzly. So this is, you're perfect for this.
Yes.
As you can tell by them guns.
I manscaped, so I'm more man than bear, but yes.
Yes, I know. Well, I know. But he's an author. He's a private detective. He's a New York resident. He's done so much. You've heard him on the show before. He's a good friend. We appreciate you coming here, but he's got some stuff to say about these answers and about the women in general and how it's all perceived. But before we go on, if for those who haven't seen it, I've got the video here and I want to play it while we're all here watching.
Would you rather be stuck in a forest?
Let's just see what happens here.
Or bear?
Bear. Man is scary. With a bear.
What I've heard about bears, they don't always attack you, right? Unless you like fuck with them. So maybe a bear.
Depends what man, but probably a bear.
100% a bear, which is like terrifying to say, but
Definitely a bear. Some men are very scary out there.
a bear.
I would say a man.
So there you go. There's the one out of the 8 or 9 that they asked, and this is really taken off because it continued on X, formerly Twitter. This whole question, and it's a controversy back and forth, and it's the women are, men, big scary men, these women, they've said they've encountered bears before, and therefore, they've never been scared of them, but they're scared of men. It's almost disturbing in a way, right? It's a disturbing answer and response. And John, give us your feelings on why that is and what your thoughts are.
I made the mistake. Yeah. I made the mistake of not knowing what the man, bear, woman thing was. Mm-hmm. And rather than look it up on social media, I said, hey, can anybody tell me what this is about? And man, do I regret doing that.
Well, there you go.
And I got the answer from somebody. It's on my Facebook wall. Mm-hmm. Well, I would choose and by the way, I would choose the bear because, and I thought about that and I said, wait a second. In about 4 seconds, I said, logically, you'd be better off with the man. Mm-hmm. And I actually, because when I make a statement, I try to back it up. I said, I looked at it this way. Look, I don't, camping to me is in a cabin. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
I don't want to have to, go to the bathroom in a coffee can. I want to have a good time and, so, but I do know a little bit about it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I know about bears, and I know why people like in Alaska carry big ass handguns.
Correct.
Because, firstly, there's not enough about the question to logically answer it, but looking at its face and looking at the question first, and then the bigger ramifications. All right. The bear, if it's hungry, you're meat. Mm-hmm. End of story. If it's a mama bear and her cubs are nearby, you're meat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If it's a man, statistics overall, and this is not in certain areas, nor does it mean you should think you're safe, but overall statistics show that we're actually in a better place than we were years ago as far as crime goes. Mm-hmm. Now with the rise of pseudo prosecutors that elevate perps over victims and criminals feeling entitled, it's starting to change. Mm-hmm. But that's a progressive thing, and that's where this question comes from. Mm-hmm. I would assume this question originated about or as a defense against the progressive I hate men, particularly the white man wing of things.
Correct. Right.
Yep. And to a lot of people, I'm going to be mansplaining. So, you're and the first thing I say You are entitled to feel how you want. You're entitled to think that you get a cold by going outside with wet hair or the flu. Okay. But I'm sorry, you're wrong. You're entitled to think that you can replace formula with almond milk for your infant child, but when you kill your child, you'll have to pay the consequences for that.
Correct. Yep.
You are allowed to think what you want. Let's get that out of the way. And if you're an intelligent person, then you're going to be receptive to hearing at least what I have to say. But if you don't want to, fine. Okay, that's fine. I am not obligated to agree with you. So knowing how dangerous the bear, and by the way, guys and gals, what I do know about bears is they're fucking omnivores. What that means is they eat everything. Whereas like a tiger is a carnivore. So if you're alone in the woods with a tiger, it's going to latch onto your neck, tear your throat out, and you're dead in 30 seconds. You're probably unconscious in 15. If the bear gets you, it's going to eat you alive. And it's probably, from what I've read, going to start with your intestines because that's the easy way to go. So it's going to be munching as you die slowly over 10 minutes. So I don't know what the odds are, but I guess you don't want to fuck with the bear. And by the way, yes, if you're an untrained woman and you haven't spent years doing it and it's a bad man, you're probably not going to do that well, but your odds are still better. You're going to do okay with the man in that situation than a bear.
Correct.
Now, if we're going to go by the progressive criteria, you can only comment about it. Well, you know what? Okay, in 1986, I wrestled a grizzly bear in a carnival. I paid $25. If you put the bear on its back, you won a Cadillac or something. And I was trying to impress the girl I was with. I won't keep you in suspense. The bear won. I was the only person to get the bear to rise up on its hind legs because I came underneath it. But then it swatted me across the room at 220 pounds at the time. I saw that once going up. I'll never see it again. And I don't think my feet touched the ground for 15 feet until I ended up in a big pile of hay. It reeked. I remember that. And its jaws, it had no claws. And today I would consider this animal abuse. But I was a kid. I was 20 years old. Its mouth in the cage was moving so fast, snapping shut. It's like being caught in an undertow. You against nature, you're screwed, you know? Being I have fought bears and I have fought men who have hurt women, I'm the only person qualified to talk about it. Pick the fucking man.
Exactly.
Now that we got that out of the way, we know the bear is dangerous. Well, look, one of the good things, and there's not many about being me, is the diversity. And I hate that word. It makes me throw up in my mouth a little because it's overused, diversity and inclusion and all that crap. What that means is we're going to promote unqualified people because we feel bad. And when you're, on a plane and the pilot is hired because of their gender, good luck when you crash.
Good luck.
What happens here is with me, I honestly deal with an enormous variety of people. Years ago in the 90s at a party that I had, a guy came up to me and said, I can't believe this. I've never seen something like this. And I said, he was a lawyer. I said, what do you mean? He said, that table over there is all lawyers. That table over there are all cops. That table, they're all martial arts instructors. Those guys are all PIs, and some of them are ex-cops. These guys are all lawyers. And he said, as near as I can tell, those guys are all criminals. And there's black, white, men, women, Muslim, Jew, Catholic. Nobody that I know of has the enormous amount of diversity in the people that they deal with. And my social media friends are reflective of that, the people that I know. So with the man, woman, bear thing, I started going through the list. Of the first 50 people I found, men or women, and by the way, I know some badass women, they would help the woman in the woods and do the best they could. I didn't find one that I knew wouldn't. But these are people that I know. You want to calculate it, whatever, but your odds are better with the man. So that brings up a question. Why would so many people choose the bear? And there's several answers for that. Misinformation is one. This constant progressive drivel about the evil of men. And you hear idiotic phrases like, let's just teach our men not to rape women.
Yeah.
And I'll come back to that later. Or there's someone that has suffered abuse. A woman as an adult or a person as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on that note, abuse is not restricted to women.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I was raised, you don't pick your hands up to a woman. You speak to most domestic violence experts, they're going to tell you, believe it or not, men are victims about half the time. It's just that they do a lot more damage when they are the aggressors.
Yeah,
and men are ashamed to come forward and say, my wife, look, I've had clients. I had one guy, 300 pounds, monster of a man, little tiny meth head, woman that he married whose brain is screwed up, horrible childhood. And I got pictures of her raking his face, trying to claw his eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
It happens, guys, so let's get off this thing, because when you start saying all men are bad, you know what? Most of those 50 people that would help you, they're going to say, wait a second, that's not me. Stop putting me in that category.
Yep.
Well, I mean, what's the worst thing to call somebody that's not a racist? You're a racist. A real racist is proud of it. Like the students, the anti-Semitic students that are protesting, they're proud of their manufactured hatred of the Jews.
Correct.
So you're not going to, only when you try to corner them with logic. And I don't debate people for the record. If you tell me it's okay to rape kids, that you believe in communism, or that you're a progressive, we really don't have much to talk about.
No, correct.
I have more important things to do, like watch the paint dry.
Yeah.
So overall, I can demonstrate fairly logically why the man is the better, safer choice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's focus then, because I know abuse is rampant. Now, one woman said, well, 1 in 5 women is sexually abused.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's no such stat that I've been able to find. And I said, it's a mistake to do that. Why? Mm-hmm. Well, because I'm the guy that's against that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because when the people that aren't against it see you making up something like that because you heard it on Facebook, they're going to use that against you and say, see, this is why there's so many false accusations. And by the way, there are false accusations.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And some accusations that's not investigated.
Right.
Correct.
That stat came from the Child Victims Act, which fell far short of what it could have done in New York.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And people saying 1 in 5 children were sexually abused. And when you looked for the stat, guess what? It didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the crime of that is, from my work and dealing with so many people, I think it's higher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I went through the Facebook list for the same reason, and I looked at the first 50 people that I knew with now what I know about child abuse, consisting of sexual, physical, neglect, and emotional. Of the first 50 people that I looked at, 40 plus had suffered some sort of child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a much higher figure than that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to represent yourself as the champion of a cause, get your facts straight and don't be afraid to talk about it.
Correct.
Show me the stats. And by the way, when I've seen stats, how many people do you think are willing to come forward and tell you that they were sexually abused when they were children? I have people that I know, and I was told by Andrew himself that I'm one of them, that does not consider themselves to have suffered abuse in their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So good luck with that. But when I was a kid, it was about half the people thought beating your kid with a belt till he was bloody was good.
Yeah, that's how it was taken care of.
So we have this problem of abuse. And I believe that the problem of abuse is why so many women would make the wrong choice. And so many men would agree with it. And listen, the first thing I did, so that you know, I got off the phone. I got off the internet, got on the phone. And I spoke to 4 women that I know, love, and care for, who I know have suffered abuse. And I said, what would you pick? And God damn it, they picked the bear too. And that's terrible.
Yeah.
Even though you got a better chance of survival with the man, they picked the bear. And again, there's not enough, what kind of bear, how far in the woods, how cold is it? Do you have any food? You know, it's a stupid question, but if you're going to look at it on its face, the answer is the man. And there's too many people answering the bear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we have this mentality. Let's teach our men not to rape women. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck you with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have a man who is going to rape a woman,
Mm-hmm.
that is a person who has grown up in an environment where that is acceptable.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
They were, okay. That's abuse. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear it as an excuse. You made that decision. At some point, you learned people don't approve of this. You raped the woman. I don't care about your childhood. You still got to pay for it.
Yeah.
But if we stop that abuse, maybe there wouldn't be men raping women.
Correct.
That college lacrosse player, or whatever the hell he was, that was raping the unconscious woman, and the judge gave him a slap on the wrist sentence. Both him and the judge, as far as I'm concerned, should be dropped off a cliff, metaphorically. I'm not encouraging anybody to do that. But people also forget 2 guys that were walking by yanked him off her and held him till the cops came.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you have this thing here. Let's stop the root cause and start working on the abuse.
But is the root cause, John, is the root cause, like the root cause to me also is no, that's what you're saying is absolutely true. There's a root cause for that issue. But these responses and these progressive, and I'm sorry, I feel like more progressive left-leaning responses to this question, I think do stem from the Me Too movements and the
and what they're
the
told.
complete man bashing that's been going on for over 2 decades now. I feel.
Yes, probably longer. Probably. I mean, you can go back to the 70s. Camille Paglia, who I actually think makes a lot of sense, she was for equality of opportunity, and she was never for castrate the men. I don't know where that went south. I think it went south because it turns out most women would prefer not to be cops or soldiers, and those that want to are free to try. You know,
correct.
So there is a big portion of that. But when you are abused, and it happens very sadly more than once,
Sure.
I lost count of the amount of people who I had spoken to who were raped as children by their parents and then were raped again once they were put in foster care.
Jesus.
When you are damaged in that way, you don't trust anyone.
Agreed.
And when there is emotional, like we've talked about this, I think before, but it's a true thing. That woman, and I use that example because I always think of one particular person, beautiful, intelligent, really just kind of like, wow, look at how beautiful this girl is. She's so smart. And yet loser after loser. And invariably she's got low self-esteem. Why? Because I'm almost certain in all of those cases, you're going to find a degree of emotional abuse. They don't understand what actual love is.
Yep.
And they imprint on what they are abused with or see around them, and that's what they look for in relationships and spend their lives wondering why they're broken. Emotional abuse is the most insidious because it's very frequent. It doesn't leave scars, and you're just expected to get over it.
Yep.
Tell a kid he's nothing but shit for his whole life. He's not as good as his brother. He's this, he's that, or she's ugly, or she's not. Go ahead, okay? Do that, and what do you get? Somebody that has no joy in life.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And then well, I was physically, I've seen debates. I was physically abused. Well, screw you. I was sexually abused. This is why things don't get done. Yeah. This is the year of a very important presidential election.
Yep.
And I'm going to say for the record right now, although I don't think President Trump particularly did anything that had child protection in mind, he didn't do much to hurt it. Yeah. The left at this juncture in time has elevated to the Supreme Court a woman who collaborates with child pornographers. It opened up the border and increased dead and trafficked children.
Correct.
They pimped out the entire country of Afghanistan to the Taliban. And they are not only allowing but encouraging sexually mutilating children and giving them hormones.
Correct.
So if child, I hope to God somebody at some point gets to President Trump and he starts to genuinely look into child protection, because at the root of this bad answer is abuse, and a significant portion of that is child abuse. And one other thing I want to say about it. A man, Haddon, I'm going to tag you when I post this, made an idiotic comment on my post and said I was mansplaining, that I'm not qualified. Well, listen to me, Hatton, and anybody else. You don't have to agree with me. That's fine. I have been in my profession for 37 years. There have been dozens of times that I have been the man protecting the woman from abuse, professionally and privately. I took in my niece, my nephew, and my sister-in-law and helped put my brother in prison for hurting them. And it was pretty much thought at one point he or I would kill each other. And way back in my infancy in this business, I shielded a woman from her psychotic ex who had killed 6 people, ran a criminal crew. And when she showed up for the order of protection after he shot up her lawyer's office and the lawyer refused to represent her at family court, he had his crew show up to follow her to see where we had her stashed. And guess what? The cops and the court officers couldn't do anything about it. A friend of mine helped me out. We pulled his car across the middle of 2 lanes of traffic to give her 10 minutes to get away. And then by that night, because they knew who I was, he informed me through people he was going to kill me. And for 8 weeks or so, he was looking to kill me. So don't fucking tell me that I don't know what it's like to be afraid. Because when you have a guy who's killed people, and by the way, you know why he didn't kill me? Because he killed his wife's new boyfriend first.
Yep.
Okay. So don't tell me I don't know what the fear is. Okay. I might not know the fear a woman has of men, but you don't know what the fucking fear is of having done what you thought was right and then wondering whether or not when this guy happens to kill you, if he's going to kill your family or if you're going to do time because you managed to kill him first. And I will tell you what, if I seen him coming at me, what do you think I'm going to do when I know who he is? So until the police can do things like that, okay, shut the fuck up about what I know and what I don't know.
Correct.
End of story.
Simple.
And I'm going to tell you this last thing on that. I'm a professional. You might not think so because I'm gruff and I don't talk that way, but I am a professional. I have dealt with this. I know how to fix it. The fact that you might have been abused does not make you an expert in anything except abuse, that you were abused. You have to objectively, not confirmation bias, but you have to objectively learn about the subject if you want to make any change. Because the rationale that the people that are abused know how to change it, domestic violence shelters, if they're being honest with you, they will tell you they have repeat customers, some of them for their whole lives. Okay? And if going by that analogy, you knew how to fix it just because you were abused, every person that had a heart attack would be a cardiologist.
Correct.
It doesn't work that way.
Good analogy. I mean, you're right.
So that's what I have to say. Pick the man. You're entitled to pick the bear, and we will speak of you fondly afterwards.
I mean, it's hard to believe that it even got this story's up on Fox News. This TikTok went viral. It's almost hard to believe, but not once. You see the reaction you're getting, right, from the people you're talking to.
People that I'm on their side.
And that's what you're getting. It's just a really whole bizarre answer to me that's and to me it just keeps getting to the point where it's just keep man bashing and man bashing and man bashing and man bashing, and to the point where I don't know. What are we going to have? We're not going to have a population anymore. There's not going to be any more reproducing. Every woman's going to become a lesbian because they feel safer and they hate men. I mean, what is the goal? What is happening here? It's just bizarre to me.
Well, look, I don't. My understanding of it, from what I've read, is people are normally gay because they're wired that way. But I think it might drive people to extremes because if you have, look, like I said. We have 2.2 million prisoners in this country or thereabouts. There's a lot of people walking around that should be in jail. Let's say 10% of the country are bad people. Okay, let's say 50% of the bears are going to kill you.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
it's crazy that we're at this point. People,
Mm-hmm.
this all comes down to people not thinking.
Yep.
People don't know how to learn. If you want to know about something, learning is a painful process.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at all of the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are going to be nonsense. Some you're going to agree with. What I've learned is you have to attack the answers that you agree with hardest,
Mm-hmm.
because your own personal bias is going to interfere.
Sure. Sure.
It's a learning is a painful process. We'd much rather find an article on Google. I can't tell you the amount of times, especially with progressives. Well, here's my proof.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, so you went to Salon, a progressive newspaper, and you got an article written by a guy who agrees with you. You got me there.
You got me
That's
there.
proof.
Yeah, that's all the proof we need. Case
You know
closed.
what? Conservatives have a tendency to do that also.
Correct.
Yeah, without a doubt.
In the past, conservatives have been just as damaging to child protection as the left is.
Mm-hmm.
This idiotic idea of the great American family. Guess what, folks? Child abuse was the norm in this country.
Mm-hmm.
We had animal protection laws before we had child abuse laws.
Yeah. And
beating the shit out of your kids till they bled was what something just about everybody did.
Yep.
Now things are getting better and we're waking up to this. Okay. But many of the social ills that you will find that the conservatives hate stem from child abuse. If you want to talk about studies and statistics, my mentor, Andrew Vax, for 10 years ran a a correctional facility for violent youths, children who had committed crimes that were violent. And over that 10-year time frame, without exception, he found that severe child abuse was a factor with all of them. So is it part of the cause? Is it the whole cause? Take your pick. But that's a fact. Okay.
Do you think that's still going on today? You know, we're seeing these kids beating up teachers and tackling them.
Sure. Look, you got to. I'm not. Listen, the last thing I am is a milquetoast liberal. Somebody does something wrong, they got to be punished. Okay,
Yes.
But you're not looking at it properly. There was a girl who was sold as basically into sexual slavery. I don't remember her name, but you could find this real easy online. And when she was 15 or 16, she snapped and she shot the guy who had paid the pimp to rape her. She's a child, 15 or 16.
Yep.
A man paid to rape her. She lost it and shot the guy. She was given life in prison. And the men and the conservative fathers' rights groups, good. Oh, fuck you.
No
the
way.
system failed her as a child, and it's failing her again as a teenager. All right. The Central Park kids.
Yeah.
They were guilty as hell.
Yep.
This pseudo documentary that said they weren't. They were not exonerated. The charges were vacated. They did it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, ask me about that. Well, you know what? First of all, they have to be punished for that. But at some point, they're getting out of prison. And now stop. Ask yourself, the meme writers, let's teach our kids not to rape women. What happened in this kid's life that at 16 or 17, they thought it was permissible to gang rape a woman in a park?
Yeah.
There's something wrong there, guys. And if you're going to tell me that whatever caused that isn't abuse, how?
Yeah.
How?
Yep.
Okay. Things that are obvious. Transvestite story hour. You know what? Some of them aren't bad-meaning people. They want to teach tolerance. You want to teach tolerance, teach them about other things. What I wouldn't, and some idiot progressive, by the way, said to me, well, you take your kid to Hooters. Well, shithead, first of all, I don't have a kid. Secondly, I would never take a child to Hooters.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So what the hell do you know about this?
Correct.
I mean, people are willing to make these giant leaps of logic without thinking.
Yep.
Ask me. When that woman is in the domestic violence shelter for the third time because her husband beat her up and threw her out, and this is the third time, at that point you sit down and you say, listen, we don't want this to keep happening to you. Why do you keep choosing these men?
Mm-hmm.
And work with her on that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't chastise her for it.
Yeah.
Don't do that, but work with her on that. Help her understand. But you know what the sad thing about that is? Most of those places with their funding, they get paid for repeat business.
Oh, I know. That's probably
there's a problem that's got to be fixed in the system.
Well, we always talk about the progressive, right? This is the movement. The men are bad, and all of that stuff. But all of those women that were on there that were asked this, that chose the bear, like you. We were talking about this yesterday. You mentioned that some of them women could have been harmed by a man.
Yes.
It could have been, which maybe there's a different thought process from where they're looking at. But the couple things I want to, the first part, and I don't want to go off to this separately, but I guarantee you most of those women, if not all of them, is okay with a man competing in a woman's sport. That's one, because that's progressivism. That's what they're teaching us. And second, the level of masculinity now is not near what it was 20, 30 years ago. You've got the idea of masculinity, and there's nothing against the guy, but Timothy Chalamet, if that is an example of masculinity today,
who is that, Jim?
We're in trouble.
He's an actor, right?
He's an actor. He's Dune. He was in Dune.
Okay. Yep.
All of those things. But anyway, I look at it from that standpoint, and it's because they're dictating to men what men should be and what men are. Right. And you made a perfect point. I know there are a group of men. Yeah, they're not good men.
No.
Oh, yeah.
There are bad women out there too.
Yes. And women have to be able to pick the man. I mean, just know that.
While we're on that, Jim, let's dispel the myth that, they look a certain way. Nope, they don't. You could, find, hey, listen, I know bikers, big tattooed ogres that would that show up at a kid's house because they were in BACA when they got to testify against their child abuser, the person that abused them. There are no molds for this, but don't alienate the men. I saw there's an actress that I happen to like. I'm not going to mention names. I actually have a project in the works, and I was hoping she would play some of the characters I wrote. But I see these things, and it stuns me. She is talking about how she is with her daughter and is present at some place, probably California, and there is a man screaming and yelling at the women and children, and all of the other men didn't do anything. Well, guess what? If I was there, and I'm not just saying this, because I could give you a dozen people who will say, I was with John when he did that. Okay? If I was there and I didn't do something, it was because I had a woman or a child I was responsible for.
Correct.
My first reaction then would be to try to get them someplace safe. And then I would go back and say, hey, move on. I have done that. I have stood up and done that. And I know, and most of the guys that I know, they'll do that too. And that doesn't, by the way, that's, pat on the back. Listen, I spent my whole life in a violent profession. I've been lifting weights, boxing, grappling, fighting since I'm 14 or 15. I'm suited for this. To this day, I still walk around with a yarmulke while I'm rehabilitating with my cane, because I'd rather that, with a little 5 o'clock gray shadow, I look like a little old Jewish guy. After I cleared it with some friends that were Jewish. Hey, would you find this insulting? No, but you're going to get in a fight. Well, okay. Yeah. I'd rather they come after me. Not to mention it made me feel better.
Yeah.
Like I was doing something. So, that's not strength. Listen, if you are a woman, there are things that you can do to change your life to protect yourself. Yeah. And you know what? Another guy, a nice guy that David on the comments, he's like, a woman that I know, an older woman, even though she's in a nice neighborhood, she's afraid to walk at night. Well, look, anomalies happen. I wouldn't want a woman I know to be walking alone at night, even though I do know it's technically safer, because that's just, I'm fairly protective.
Yeah.
Don't group the men who would be there to help you, which I think is the majority, They
Yeah, I
look
do.
at
I
guys
like
that
to
look
hope
like they're
so.
gonna hurt you.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, that's a disconnect, and things have to change.
Hmm.
Okay. Jordan Peterson is hated by the progressives because
Hmm.
very frequently he makes the logical point, backed up by statistics, that
Correct.
there are differences between men and women, and
Correct.
in general, they
Hmm.
prefer to do different things. We are now at the point in our evolution as a
Hmm.
society, and have been for a while, where if you have a woman who wants to be a cop or a soldier, she can try. And
Yeah.
look, I'll tell you right now, without even thinking, six women right off the top of my head. We're walking into a situation, guns drawn. She can lead
Hmm.
because she's better at it than I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
I know
Yep.
somebody that made detective by capping two perps.
Hmm.
You know, she's and they know what they're doing.
Hmm.
Okay, they're going to be a minority, it turns out, because other women would prefer not to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you always give people the chance, and we are at the point in our society where we could do that.
Hmm.
You know, let's not ruin it and regress. You know, what we should be doing, what we should all be doing, is looking at the abuse issue and saying
Hmm.
to our elected officials and the people that we support, what are you going to do about child abuse? And
Hmm.
learn enough about child abuse and abuse in general so
Hmm.
that they can't give you a nonsense answer, that they
Yeah.
give you something and they're making it a platform issue.
Hmm.
When we start to look at them as our children,
Hmm.
our women, when we start to look at them that way, then we'll be at our next stage. If we
Hmm.
don't have a justice system, we have a
Hmm.
legal system.
Yeah.
For the legal system to transform into a justice system, the first thing it should be doing is protecting innocence.
Hmm.
The focus of the legal system should be child protection.
Hmm.
End of story.
Yeah.
The war on drugs has gotten us nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's gotten us nowhere since its inception
Yep.
because you're attacking the problem wrong.
Yep. Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
and
Very true.
by the way, it is, of course, it's possible somebody had a normal childhood and went bad. It's
Hmm.
choice. But the
Yeah.
majority of the people that go really bad have
Hmm.
not had good child,
Yeah.
not had normal childhoods.
Yeah.
You know, and whether it's a catalyst, you know, whenever you hear somebody say they're born a certain way, I hear the phrase Nazi thrown
Hmm.
around.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
If you're going to tell me a black kid is born to commit crimes because he's a black kid, hi, Adolf. You know, that's,
Yeah.
no,
That's right.
no.
Yep.
no.
Mhm.
You can say that there are certain people and certain conditions where when you then put the catalyst of abuse in, they're going to turn out a certain way, almost guaranteed.
Hmm.
You can say that, okay? But it's not. Humans don't work that way.
Hmm.
What's the first thing when you catch a freak that's raping kids? What's the first thing the freak says? I was raped as a child. Let me go.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about the majority of people who were raped as children that don't rape children?
Hmm.
We're not
Right.
pre-programmed. That's horseshit.
Yeah.
It's not what you're born. Okay, sometimes the good does go bad,
Hmm.
but when you're looking at the problem on a whole, there are causes, there are effects,
Yeah.
and we can fix this.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, I love Florida. I would trade my horse-faced doofus of a governor who sent Jesus apostles out during COVID
Hmm.
for DeSantis in a day because at least he reads. But
Yeah.
if I ever had Ron for 5 minutes, man, the first thing I tell him, your child protection system is absolute shit. The
Hmm.
only thing New York can say, as on the whole, at least I'm
Yeah.
not Florida.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, the Casey Anthony trial should be the face of Florida child protection. The
Oh, I
stupidity of the
understand that.
prosecutors,
Hmm.
you know. Um,
Yep.
By the way, she was never getting convicted of murder. Not if the system works the way it should. You didn't even have a cause of death. But child neglect, she could have gone away for 20 years.
She could have at
Arrogance and
least.
stupidity
Mhm.
on the part. Oh, hell yes.
Yeah, at
Arrogance
least.
and stupidity on the part of the prosecutor.
Correct.
We don't,
Correct.
guys, want to make change at the expense of creating another group of victims.
Hmm.
We do not believe in guilt by accusation because there are false allegations.
Correct.
I estimate anywhere from 25% up.
Wow.
And I can
Mhm.
justify that logically too. The Justice Department used to start at one point was starting to tally what they thought were wrong accusations.
Mm-hmm.
And when they initially came in with a figure of about 10%, but when their auditors and their agents started to look at it and it started to climb towards 25, they stopped keeping track.
Sure, of course. Yeah, you can't have that. John, listen, thank you so much for your perspective on this and for your thoughts on it, because I agree. Jim, do you have any other questions? Because I'd like to review like what he's doing next and his books and where they can
let's
find
just
them.
do that. Yep.
Yeah. John, tell us. You're an author, best-selling author.
Yes.
So let's just keep that going. What's
I am
next?
with,
Where can they find you? How can they find these books of yours?
Last I heard, we're with all the major distributors.
Okay.
I am signed at this time with Rough Edges Press, a division of Wolfpack Publishing, and what could be more appropriate for me than
Apparently.
Rough Edges Press. I've written 3 novels. My novels thus far are crime fiction, and they revolve around crimes against children and child protection.
Yep.
I would honestly tell you that I think they've gotten a little better each novel. I consider it a badge of honor. The 3rd novel was the one I had to do the most research on. It's called Harbingers. And I have a friend of mine in Florida. We've gotten to be friends. His name is Todd Phoenix, very well-known homicide investigator. And Todd, when we first started talking to each other, called me and said, like 3 days later, "Hey, I've read all 3 of your books." I'm like, "Hey, it takes me about 6 months to write them. Could you slow down a little bit?" And in the 3rd book, the character comes up against devil worshippers. I wrote it around Halloween. And that he actually said to me, when a man of that experience says, "I got to ask, did you actually run into these guys?" Because he knows about satanic crimes. And he said it was so accurate. And I said, no, I just wrote about it and got a lot of input from people. But I consider that to be a badge of honor.
Yeah, for sure.
I believe you can write a story, keep it real, and still entertain people at the same time. And I believe what I've been able to do is I can tell you a good story and at the same time make you understand that there is a world out there that exists that many people don't see. And whenever you read about abuse in my books, that is someone whom I've spoken to, who has been abused, and who has allowed me to use their story, but I will not identify them.
Sure.
So when you read the 3rd book and you read about the little boy who lived in a cage under his stairs and was only taken out on the weekends and raped on film by his parents and their friends, and that they got him a puppy once and then strangled the puppy in front of him as a disciplinary measure. Yeah, that happened.
Wow.
It happened. So, but again, it's when I write these things, I also give you heroes. My partner, Mike Marino. Mike was a deputy police chief in New York, one of the best human beings I've ever met. My other partner, Ron Gorsline, retired Navy SEAL, spent 15 years in the Gulf, walks around to this day, patchwork held together. I modeled characters after them. At one point, Chief Marino calls me and he said, "John, I fell asleep last night." He talks like this. "Hi, John. Hey, Chief. John, I fell asleep last night reading your book." I said, "Well, that's not good to know, Chief." He said, "Yeah, but this morning I got up and I was sitting with my wife over coffee telling her about the new case we had against the devil worshippers. And then I realized I can no longer differentiate between our actual work and what you write." So I figured Andrew actually pointed that out to me. Andrew never had the opportunity to meet or talk with Mike, but he said, "I have come to admire the man from the way that you write about him."
Yeah.
So I figured let people know while I'm writing there are heroes out there too. And if I write it, it can, will, or did happen.
Yeah.
And at the same time, again, I think I'm telling a pretty good story. Right now, I'm working on a collaborative novel, which myself and a few other authors are doing in memory of Andrew Vax. And I was injured for a couple of years. I had 3 surgeries. I was convalescing. And contrary to popular belief, you're not in a frame of mind to write when you're taking medication and you're in physical therapy. By the way, physical therapists,
Mm-hmm.
Eric Fischera, I'm talking to you, evil son of a bitch. Whenever your physical therapist smiles at you and says, "We're going to try something new this week," you're screwed.
You're screwed.
You're screwed, man. It's like I was starting to feel good. Not for the next 2 weeks.
No. That's right. You're not doing it right if you feel good.
Conservatively, I have another 6 months ahead of me and possibly another operation. But
wow.
I'm more back to normal now. And I would also ask, gentlemen, and anybody that's viewing this, I'm working with a great guy. His name is Peter DiMaselli. He founded a group called Protect Our Children. They actually have done things like there were complaints in a neighborhood about a man exposing himself to children, and they went out and caught the guy and held him for the cops. He's a great guy. He's looking to make a difference, and he and I are working together. And I have a not-for-profit that we're working on bringing forward, and we're looking for opportunities to speak about it.
Okay.
So if you know someone, or if you're watching this and you like how I'm talking to the guys, Dale and Jim are good guys. I'm willing to talk to anybody. Listen, big surprise here, I tend myself to be a fiscal conservative.
Yeah.
That means I don't care what you do in your private life. Not my business. As long as you're not hurting somebody else, it's consensual and children aren't involved. Be my guest.
Yes. That's right.
Get the rocking horse out, man. I love lady cops because they got their own handcuffs. Be my guest.
Yeah.
So I don't care about that. What I care about is how our money is spent, and I believe that it should be better spent on our children.
Yeah.
So, but I'm willing to talk to anybody. Child protection itself is an apolitical issue.
Yep, correct.
Right. Should
when
be.
You have to, though, this is a warning for you. And right now, the left is out of its mind. But it wasn't. There were plenty of times the right's made its mistakes. Could go, and never say, well, the left of the child molesters or the right or no bullshit. Look up Eugene Gold, prosecutor, son of Sam case, raped a woman's kid in Kentucky, Democrat. Okay, look up Denny Hastert. Okay,
yeah,
oh yeah.
Used public funds to pay off a kid that he raped.
Yep.
And then some stellar people wrote letters of commendation about him.
Yep.
If you rape children, you are evil. You are not sick. It's bullshit.
Yep. Correct.
Okay, so there are bad guys on both sides, and both sides rarely help. Okay. But right at this juncture in time, the left is going crazy, bending over backwards, trying to pull in as many people it can and justifying as many things as it can, and using children to do so.
Hey, John, have you watched Quiet on the Set?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay, you need to watch it because your description of what you said, people defending, there was an individual who happened to molest Drake Bell from Drake and Josh, and there was famous people that showed up to support the guy who did the molestation, the raping of this child, and you said it right there. It's like there's people that sit there and they'll defend that. Now, some of them turned around and said, I didn't know that was going on.
Did the guy admit to it?
Yeah. Oh, well, there was no question about it.
If you got a conviction or you got a guy saying, yeah, I raped a kid. End the story.
Not until after.
End of story.
Not until after the trial.
When we talk about Cruz and we're talking about the different kinds of men, this is something that I say with pride. Okay. You know what? If you run with me, if you're in one of my crews, okay, the one thing we all share in common, you can do anything and I got your back.
Yeah.
And trust me, I am the guy, guys. At 4:00 in the morning, I need help. You can't even, I'm the guy. And very often I have no idea what to tell you to do, but everybody thinks I know everything.
Yeah.
I don't. Surprise, I don't. But I'm the go-to guy. Okay. And I will take you aback if you are with me. You did something stupid, I'll help you. The death knell for you and me, you hurt a kid.
Yep.
You hurt an innocent. Okay.
Yep.
That's not allowed. You know what? I look at drug dealing vastly different than when I started. You don't sell to kids, I got no problem with you.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, that's now you can come up. You don't have to agree with me on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I just see all the other problems that we have that I think we should be worrying about because the more you worry about drugs, the more kids get abused.
Yeah.
And again, how common it is. I'm in the car with two guys going to an airport, leaving after people threatened to kill us in a town where we're doing a job. Me, I know, right? Can't happen. And for the first time, while I'm sitting there and talking with them, and these are two hard ass guys, two guys that if I saw them on the other side, I'd be telling my client, we might want to talk our way through this, And it turns out they've both suffered abuse as children. My friend Andrew, when I was going through a personal crisis, pointed out that my younger brother was evil by choice, but there's no denying the inadvertent, the accidental, if you will, abuse. And yes, it does happen like that. The father has it in his head, this is what I need to do to make my son a man. Of my brother, it was the catalyst. And that helped me get through something I was grieving over. And then he said to me, now, son, at some point in the future, we will discuss how you claim you are not, meaning me, a child of the secret, how you were not abused, yet you were right there while that was going on. And I'm supposed to think the abuse was restricted. And even if you were just watching it, you don't consider that abuse?
Yeah, correct.
And when he said that, the gears, the really rusty ones way in the back that are creaking so loud that need the WD-40 started turning. And I said, you know what, Papa? We'll talk about that some other time. And he said, we will, son. But we never did. It's so take from that, how common is it? All three guys that we met each other in different parts of our lives together randomly, all of us, if you want to count me in that group. And I have trouble counting myself in that group. And by the way, the other thing Andrew pointed out to me, if you saw some of what was done in your childhood to somebody else, and again, my father didn't mean to do this. He wasn't a bad person at heart. And this is done all the time, far more frequently than you would think. You don't tell a kid with a stutter, for example, get the fuck out of here and don't talk to me until you can speak like a man. You don't tell that to a 4-year-old with it. But you know what? You'd be surprised in the 60s and 70s how many men thought that would be making a man out of a child.
Correct. Nope. You're right. Different era, different time frame.
I got a friend of mine, shout out to him, Jimmy Hannon. I love Jimmy. Jimmy was a great boxer. He was a real tough son of a bitch. He's the kind of guy that if he was around today and you were taking video of your cell phone of two guys beating up an old man, first he'd go smack them, then he'd go smack you for not helping the old man.
Correct. Because you're taking a bit.
Yeah, he's dealing with a terrible cardiopulmonary issue. He would have been dead years ago, but the son of a bitch keeps fighting. Still works out with like 20% lung capacity. Became a nurse. Grew out of the childhood he was in. He'd lose a fight to a kid. His father would grab him by the hair and drag him outside and make him fight the kid until he won. Now tell me about that, guys. Do you do that to your son? But his father thought he was helping his son. So that's a terrible problem. So how widespread is it? Again, I could sit with you one day and do this and go through my Facebook list. Child abuse, trauma, normal childhood, if you want to call it that. Child abuse, that it's so common that, I mean, we could do amazing things, guys, can't we? We could put a probe into outer space that could take 8 years to get to Pluto. And it can tell us what Pluto's made of. We have telescopes now that are saying, there could actually be people on this planet that's 238 trillion miles away. We can do that. Why can't we do better by our kids? It's because people don't stop and say, with this problem, we have to fix it. We all have to work on this together. And you know what? There you go. What's going to get the reasonable Democrats and the reasonable Republicans getting together? Two things. Democrats, stop going along with your Nazi party, the progressives. And two, start talking to each other. And maybe if children were what we were working on, maybe we could all start talking again.
You know how they would fix it, John? You know how they would get them to fix it if there was, sadly, if there was money to be made in fixing the problem, they would fix the problem.
Yep. Or if there was money to be lost. You know that position that you get elected into where you only work 4 months out of the year and you got to run for office every 4 years? You're not going to get to go back there unless you fix this.
Correct.
I don't expect, some of them will do it out of love for children. But come on, guys.
Yeah.
I'm watching the people grill Ketanji Brown Jackson, whatever the collaborator's name is.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to tell me if she wasn't a Republican, they wouldn't be defending her? Bullshit. Come on.
Yeah, bullshit.
Come on.
Bullshit.
Okay. You know, I wouldn't get my child an abortion even if she was gang raped. You know what? You are polluting the gene pool. Don't procreate.
I know.
You know? I wouldn't get an 11-year-old an abortion, even though it's probably a death sentence for her.
Yeah.
You know, okay.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that these people care. They don't.
Correct. You can't.
They don't have to care. They have to answer to us.
Yes.
If we say you don't get that job unless you do something. And by the way, you'll find some of them are going to be child molesters. Just like when Mothers Against Drunk Driving would recruit politicians and they'd get arrested
Busted for
driving.
DWI.
Right.
Yeah. We don't care about that. We want change in the law.
Yeah, correct.
We want children to be protected.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them to spend their entire life in family court. The idiocy of California with things like joint custody. We could do a show on that, guys. The judge wants joint custody as the woman is standing there with a broken jaw and a black eye, and the husband's in handcuffs because he beat the shit out of her. We want you to parent together because no, my brother, when he got out of prison, ran to family court. And immediately it started invading their lives. Didn't care about seeing his kids.
Correct.
The judge told him, if you ask the children about their mother, where she's working, who she's seeing, where they're living, child visitation stops. And this will be done in front of a child psychiatrist. And guess what? First visit at the psychiatrist's office, in 15 minutes, violated everything the judge said.
Wow.
And you know what the judge said when we took him back to court? Father's got to see his kids.
Oh, no.
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
My niece is the closest thing I have to a daughter. I love this kid. One day when she had done something spectacular in her life, she went to go see her father. And she shows up in tears. And and he said something awful to her, terrible, that you wouldn't say. She accomplished something, and he said something terrible to her, and she said to me, Uncle John, I don't know why I feel bad. I got you.
Yeah.
And I said, honey, it's normal for you to want your father to be a father.
Sure.
But the problem is, guess what? It's not in him.
Right.
And by the way, it's not in him by choice. He goddamn well knows what he does.
Yeah.
He knows what he does. He chooses not to do it.
Correct.
So, and by the way, again, if people want to say you don't know what it's like, I know what it's like to put my own brother in prison.
Yep.
Because that horrible choice, and let me tell you, the day that he went away, I sat in my office and saw nothing but him as a child. If I had been higher than 3 floors up, I might have jumped out the window. But at that height, I couldn't be sure if I landed on my head, especially that I'd do the job.
Yeah.
I'd probably just break my sidewalk up further. That was the worst decision I've ever made, while it was the easiest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the woman that you beat up on a daily basis and the 2 kids that you had with her.
Right.
Whose choice? What choice do you make there?
Yeah, exactly.
So when I have people tell me I'm not qualified to comment about these situations, no.
Yep.
You would be lucky to survive what I have.
Yep. Correct.
And in my profession, and every once in a while, I get together with the guys. We sit around a fire. We talk. You know what the main thing we say to each other is? You ever surprised that you're still alive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I am. Mm-hmm. I enjoy. I hope there's a little bit more enjoyment left because I didn't honestly think I was going to make it this far.
Yeah, correct.
Back when I had that guy looking for me, I thought that was it. I just had it in my head. I'm taking him with me.
Yeah.
You know, when he comes for me, I mean, this is a guy, by the way, that I don't know if I might have mentioned it to you. I don't know if I said it on the show. Somebody was going to testify against him once, and he drove his car through the man's living room.
Oh, yeah.
Drove his car, I'm not kidding you, through his house.
Yeah.
Did the guy testify? I don't want to keep you in suspense on that. No, he kind of said no. You know, hey, listen, people are capable of change. Yeah. It's rare. I hope that the guy maybe has changed.
Yeah.
Okay, but you know what? And again, I'm not looking for no pat on the back.
Mm-hmm.
I chose this.
Mm-hmm.
One of the differences between me and a lot of the guys that do what I do is they were born into this and they made the decision to be good. Mm-hmm. I chose this.
Yeah.
You know, I chose this. And sometimes I regret that decision.
Sure.
During the Biden economy when I had no pension.
Yeah.
You know, when I think about the things that I've seen and how people so badly hurt each other, when I have people get themselves into messes and they pay me oodles of money to help them, but they don't listen, you know. So, you know, if we're going to have change, let's start listening to the people that know and let's start making change.
Yep.
And you want to do something, you support President Trump. I do at this point. Letter, Mr. President, these are some problems with child protection. What are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do? Mm-hmm.
Biden's a lost cause.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
He spent the last 4 years hurting children. I wouldn't believe a goddamn word he said. And I apologize to the religious people. You have to remember, guys, this is how I talk. I know we're not on TV and I'm so colorful.
No.
You know. So don't focus on that. What I'm saying is Biden and the Democrats have been using children as a prop for their own ends for the last 4 years.
Yep, correct.
You couldn't convince me they were going to make a change.
Yep.
I mean, if you think Biden's going to be different than what he was now,
oh God, it's only going to be worse. You know, it can only get worse. So with that, so
it can get a lot worse.
It could get a lot worse. Yeah, John. I mean, listen,
it's like the money pit. Remember the money pit?
Oh yeah.
You know, the plumber goes to his house.
Yeah.
And, you know, the guy comes out, you're saving a good scotch for guests. You know, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. Where are my manners?
Yeah.
And he's like, please, you got to help me. All right, write me a check for $5,000. And the plumber looks at him and waiting for the check. And he says, wait, aren't you going to look at the pipes? And he says, I looked at them 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you think they've improved?
Yeah. That's right.
Okay.
It's true.
So,
it's very true. Good point. John, you're the best. Thank you, my friend. It's been too long.
Yeah, thank you.
I
always appreciate the chance to talk with you guys.
Oh man, we're honored to talk to you always. And let's not go that far in between again. We'll stay in touch. You know how to get a hold of us.
Around. I have surprisingly little to do. I get beaten up by the physical therapist. He looks like Jesus, which is good because I often think he's sending me to meet him. Actually, if I can, Eric Fischera is the physical therapist, and right now it's Amanda and Sam that help him. They gave me back my knee and my shoulder to where it functions, and I'm told I'm ahead in progress as far as my Achilles tendon goes, but I got at least another 6 months of work left to do at least.
Yeah.
And apparently it's going to be numb for the rest of my life and will occasionally lock.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I would wish on Biden.
He wouldn't even know it if it happened.
No, he wouldn't.
Yeah, he wouldn't even know.
He'll be happy.
Yeah. John, you're the best. Thank you, my friend. We appreciate it.
Guys.
We'll talk. We'll stay in touch. We'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to the Two Guys, One Coup podcast with Dale and Jim. Remember, you can watch on YouTube and Rumble and listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it, and it helps others find us when searching for podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and TikTok. Just search for Two Guys, One Coup. That's the number 2, guys, and the number 1, coup, C-O-U-P. Thanks again for listening to the Two Guys, One Coup podcast, and God bless the United States of America.